Hello, thanks for stopping in. Thanks for taking a moment to enjoy a story with me. I hope this finds you well on your way. I am sipping a little pine tea today. Had a huge branch that had fallen from an eastern white pine right outside my home in the last couple days when the weather has been back and forth between snow, ice, sleet, rain, sun, wind. We've had it all, a whole mix. And so this tree towers over the little tiny cabin that I'm in here in the Allegheny National Forest. But I decided to collect some today and make some tea with it. So cheers to you out there, wherever you might be. To health. Pine, eastern white pine, is very rich in vitamin C, tons of nutrients and vitamins in it. So I am, we went out, my daughter wanted to last night go see the branch and give it a kiss after we were listening to some drumming and doing some just relaxation here at home. She was really compelled, she's about 2.5 years old, to go out and visit the branch that had fallen. And I did feel ask if it was, for me to be able to use some of this. And so one of the things I'm going to do is make tea, and then another few things are perhaps some cleaning products as well, and stuff like that. So that's to be shared later. But I had started recording a video and then got really raspy because it's late at night here for me. But I did want to share this story because it came up on my Facebook memories about a flower that is significant to me at this time of year, and it's called the Speedwell. And here in western Pennsylvania, in the Allegheny National Forest where I am, this flower I don't see. It doesn't bloom here. We get a ton of forget-me-nots, which I love, love, love. And they're very similar. They remind me a lot of them. But the Speedwell, which I have some dried ones here that my dear friend sent me last year from her yard. So the significance of the story is just, it's a personal tale that maybe you might find interesting. I love to see how the stories of plants and crystals, certain stones, or certain animals show up in our lives, and they ignite this sort of fire to the grander themes of things and the grander scale of their significance. So I do take really to heart when certain things show up in my life and act as an ally. And so the Speedwell did that for me at a time of great transition in the year of 2020, and when I was living in a tiny home in western North Carolina, newly pregnant with my daughter. And this flower was all throughout the yard of this tiny home along this creek where a blue heron would often visit. And it was a really magical place, some place that I knew I wouldn't be able to stay very long once pregnant, and just the capacity to hold space for this life inside me in the kind of conditions that it required, with just, certain things like composting toilet and a ladder to climb to sleep, and things like that. So it just made it a little bit hard to imagine for me. But I think, you could definitely do that, if you just were prepared. And it was, I just wasn't quite prepared for something like that. So anyways, and at the time where we were beginning to come into a lockdown state around the world due to the COVID virus. So yeah, there was changes that were being made. Before really we came into lockdown, this flower began blooming. It blooms you know, in the midwinter there in western North Carolina, the mountains of the Blue Ridge and outside of Asheville, North Carolina. And so my yard was covered with these flowers, these beautiful periwinkle color flowers. And my dear friend wanted to come see the house and hang out, and we had made some plans to do so, which would come later in my time there. But we had worked at a school together. We were working at this really amazing school, and well, nonetheless, we were both outside sitting in sun, just enjoying the day. I think it was like a Sunday or something like that, where, you know, the feeling of a Sunday where there's nowhere to really be and rush to, and even if there are things going on, it just is a time, it's a reverent day of the week, like no matter sort of what your belief system is, it just carries that air because there's so many people that recognize it as being an important day of the week and a day of rest and things like that. But we were both admiring this flower and how amazing it was, and so we said, you know, we were talking over the phone and we were like, okay, let's make this tea, you know. It was called, looking it up, Virginia Speedwell. And so, you know, these flowers are so tiny, like it takes a long time to really get a substantial amount for making tea, even just 1 cup. And so, you know, we're picking for about an hour, and I'm like, okay, you know, like the sun's kind of starting, the afternoon's waning, like I gotta get in this outdoor tub, and so I'm gonna go ahead and say that I have enough, you know, and it was just the ritual of it, this tiny teacup, you know, no bigger than this one right here, filled with some of those flowers, just enough to turn the water a beautiful color. The color of her tea was so much different than mine, so much more magical, but yeah, so we sipped this tea, even we were at a little bit of a distance. Well, you know, a couple weeks later, come to find out that, you know, the world would be a completely different place in no time at all. But the essence of Speedwell is actually one that was said to be given when someone was going to be sent on a journey somewhere else. So the term Speedwell actually comes from, like, kind of fare thee well in a sense, and it was almost like a potion taking that at that day. I don't know exactly where the moon was stationed or the planets at the time, but it did feel significant in the alignment of the way that sipping, the cultivation, the intention of friendship would keep a line between us through a change, catastrophic and catatonic, cathartic, all those terms that just mean basically when your world turns inside out. And you know, we both are in very different places than we were at that time, and made choices to get us to different spaces and places, and to be living a life that felt like our true joy. And I'm so happy for her that she is doing that, and really making choices that are aligned with her heart and for herself, which for a long time wasn't necessarily how she was able to make those choices. So I just am shouting this story out as gratitude for this friendship, but also for the connection with this plant. So she sent me some from her yard. Not yet for this year. She's been traveling, so I don't know if I'm going to get some this year, but I do have some from years past, and I hang on to it even, just this little bit. I'm not going to make tea with it. I like to catalog flowers at different times and keep a log of things when they're growing. So this memory came up on my Facebook of this flower and me documenting this cup of tea, and it's such a simple act, and yet it had such a profound measure and memory within my my connection to this plant that now is sort of ingrained in my memory and in my system, and that I hold with Gaia and Mother Earth. And I'm so grateful that this is something that anybody can invite into their lives to bring a richer sense of being, of knowing that you belong and that there are things, allies here that will assist you along your way. So after that cup of tea, and just a couple, maybe 10 days later or so, I had my last gathering with friends and headed up to live in Pennsylvania, where I had once lived lifetimes ago, to birth my daughter and start a new life. And yeah, I am so grateful for the connection. So when I got to Pennsylvania, and I was in culture shock from the weather, because there was still a lot of winter to be had there that year. This year it feels different, but I was so used to early spring in the Carolinas that yeah, this felt very different. I'm in icebox central here now, but we don't have snow here right now, and it feels all right. We're doing. But that year when I got to Pennsylvania, it was just like, wow, there's so much more winter to be had. I remember it was only until it took a couple months from that point, from mid-March to about May, maybe 6 weeks or so, for flowers to finally start to peak around, such as periwinkle and then the forget-me-nots. And I thought it was so interesting where I was living at the time, my boyfriend's grandfather's house, that has been there for 100 years or so, was filled with forget-me-nots. And so just kind of the, I want to say a little bit of irony, but the humor that Earth has when you're in a relationship, to where that Speedwell sent me off and the forget-me-nots greeted me, so that I would know that there is friendship always around. So that is my Virginia Speedwell story. It is a little simple magic to make a cup of tea with the flowers or plants that are positively 100% identified through the means that you have, whether it be books, apps, or your knowledgeable experts nearby. But make sure that you identify any plant before you consume it, like absolutely 100%. There's some things that are just really gentle to use. I'm so grateful for this medicine. Thank you for listening to this story. I appreciate you. I hope you have a lovely spring. It's on the way. The Pisces new moon brought in a lot. We are holding in the light. Okay, so much love. Thank you.